hope you have them in front of you. Okay, because I hope you have them in front of you because this is going to be read textually. So I hope you have, at least if you didn't print them out, at least you have them in your on your phones. Okay, we're at the tail end of the mitzvah Ahavat. The Rebbe discussed at length that the Ikar mitzvah of Ahavas Hashem is the doing what it takes, b'izbainus haseichel, to be moiled Ahavas Hashem. Thinking about the greatness of God, this alone will, in a broad sense, and this would be explained at length before, I'm not going to do it now, it's what it takes to develop an acute God awareness, which will naturally, if you do have a healthy, honest God awareness, you will be enamored. Enamored doesn't mean you walk around singing with a guitar. It means you're basically driven to know more. The unquenchable thirst for search for knowing more of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chochmasai and myself, that is what is the mitzvah of Abba is. And that means to say that if you have younger children, you take them to the zoo, you buy them a telescope, a microscope, you go to the Grand Canyon, I don't know where, you go to Mitzpeh Rimon. Reuben, today we have Mitzpeh Rimon over here, a great observatory. The stars are unbelievable. You teach them the constellations. You teach them the Chochmah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Priya. I'm not talking about going further, the Chochmah into Torah, into the metaphysics, to Mavur, Rambam, the Sefer HaMitzvahs. All this leads to knowing more about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara says, you want to know who God is. Be a baki in all Haggadahs Chazal, and you understand more and more and more in depth of who God is, as much as human beings can. That is a mitzvah of Ahavas Hashem. By the way, that mitzvah is mitzvah both Nashim and Anoshim. There's no mitzvah shazman gromahim. All women and men and children are mitzvah from bar mitzvah to engage in a quest of God knowledge and God awareness. And in other words, do whatever it takes to generate that kind of quest, okay? I repeat, well, you figure it out. I'm not going to talk about it now. We did this at length in the previous sessions, so this is where we're holding. It's now that he talks about becoming aware of the fact that God is the source of all, and ultimately our whole existence is nothing more than an extension of his will and way. This is basically what this is. He comes now to another stage, and this is what we're going to go now. We're in page, I'm moving this around a bit. We're in page, I hope, do you see me, I hope? Okay, we're on page 398, the bottom paragraph. B'nei Ksiv, the pasuk says, Re'eh, behold, the see, you know, the see obviously means see, not with you. It's not shmiya, it's ria. That means it has to become not just that which you hear becomes a vivid reality. It is not enough. We know the cloud of ria versus shmiya here. Shmiya tishmu, you listen, you heed, you follow. More so, you listen to what the ideals behind it are. That's in Ibn Ezra and the Ramban and Pasha Shlach. Okay, so Shmiyas HaMitzvahs is hearing, understanding as much as you can of the moral value of it, etc., and ultimately doing what it takes to live that way. But that's not enough. Then there's Re'eh, you must understand that the undercurrents of this must become vivid and real. You have to be able to see it, reminding me of synesthesia, of Rayim Es HaNishma. Okay, the idea is making a vivid reality of what you have internalized. That's called das, as we discussed in different times in this series. Now he gave you Torah and mitzvahs. He says what I actually gave you is life. And there's one has to realize that what you have here is life, as opposed to the opposite of life. Now that has become a vivid and real reality. Choose life. Now, the obvious question is, what does it mean to choose life? What is the life that one has to choose? Okay, we're told Torah mitzvahs. It's more than that. You have to choose life. So this is where he takes an interesting take on this. Etc. To the Navi uses the a mashal, the metaphor, as if God's stomach is churning. We discussed at length in the class before we went into vacation based on the Shalah, we did a long study on that, on the Shalah Kaddish, that the uniqueness of Lashon HaKodesh, it's called Lashon HaKodesh, as opposed to Rambam or in the Bukhim. And as opposed even to the Ramban, he said the Pshat Lashon HaKodesh is based on I'm not sure if it was Ramak or Telas Yaakov, I don't remember at the moment which Sefer in Kabbalah he brings it from. The idea of Lashon HaKodesh is that the words in Hebrew do not express or describe the material reality that you see. For example, when you say yad, it doesn't mean the human hand or the animal hand. It means the hand of God, whatever that is, a kli of a Kadosh Baruch Hu to extend himself in creativity. That's what yad means, okay? And the yad of an Adam or a Chaya is a mashal to that yad. And when I say ayin, it does not mean the ayin, the human eye, and God's eye is a mashal to my eye. It's the opposite. The Torah is daber be'elyonim, v'tirma is v'tachtoinim. So the Torah is actually talking, the language of Torah is talking about elyonim, about shoyrish advar. Ein Hashem is what the real ayin is. The Ein Adam is a mashal to the Ein Hashem. We discussed this at length in the previous year. I can send you on the chat. There is the Shalah Kodesh. If anybody wants it, send me a request and I'll send it again. Okay, but that's the Yesod Gadol. In other words, when we see metaphors in Navi of God having a me'ayim, it doesn't mean it's just a mashal to our me'ayim. It means no, there is a concept called me'ayim shel mala. And forget the me'ayim shel mata of Adam Fishu Adam is a mashal to me'ayim shel mala. That's why Lashon HaKodesh is called the transcendent language. It deals with the transcendent reality. It deals with the root of reality. It doesn't deal primarily with how it's expressed in Olam Hazeh. That's what it's talking about. Olam Hazeh is a mashal to that. This is a very important shalom which has to be known. So it's very important to be able to learn Torah, Lashon HaKodesh, and not with all the different translations, because that's what it really is. To learn Chumash, I understand we need a tool called, I don't know what is it, Schattenstein, in my days it was Cincino, and Dr. Hertz. At the end of the day, we have to bring it back to Lashon HaKodesh, because there's a whole unique reality of, when you speak Lashon HaKodesh, you're speaking about Shoyrish HaDvar, not the Tetzah of Dvar. We're very, 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 just the thought of it, understand that everything here is nothing more than a mashal to something which is in Shoyrish. It's a Ramban in Bereshis, where the Ramban writes, when it says Tachia Oretz Deshe, Esav Azriya Zera, Zok the Ramban, it doesn't mean a Oretz Atachtaina. It means a Oretz Elyoina, which is the Shoyrish of Oretz Atachtaina. In Oretz Elyoina, he said he put in a Koyach of Tachia Oretz Elyoina Deshe, and the Mela, that's what happened also in Oretz Atachtaina. Ein Shamarabana Kosov Yedaber Yoini V'Yirmas the Tachtoinu. That's what it is, Lashon HaRamban. This is what all of Lashon HaKodesh is. Such an important thing to remember. It's such a pity that people don't know there's a mitzvah. By the way, it's a sifri, and the sifri Mefurish is sifri by Vishinantam Levanecha, and it's also Pirush HaMishal Rama Masechta Avis on the word mitzvah kala kevachamura. So the Rambam writes, what's mitzvah kala? To teach your child Lashon HaKodesh. What's the mitzvah of Lashon HaKodesh? Because Lashon HaKodesh, first of all, that is the kli of how you learn Torah. He doesn't say learn it in English and you translate them in English. No, the chachma is you have to teach it, give them accessibility to the primary text. So how to teach Torah starts with how to say Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled, Hey, etc. That's what's important. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. It's not just people who made Aliyah. It means every person should somehow learn Lashon HaKodesh, and if possible to speak Lashon HaKodesh. Rav Nosson Adler, the Rebbe of the Tzam Sofer, only spoke Lashon HaKodesh. Only spoke Lashon HaKodesh. He didn't speak anything else. He didn't speak German, that way he was in Frankfurt at the time. He spoke Lashon HaKodesh. Now, Lashon HaKodesh may be contemporary Hebrew, contemporary Lashon HaKodesh has been bastardized with enormous amounts of new words, which have nothing to do with Lashon HaKodesh. I'm not talking about that, but at least when we learn Torah, we should go to our primary sources. This is a It's a very important thing. So this is when it says, just again, when we say these things, it's not that it's a metaphor for a churning stomach of the human being, it's the opposite. There is a concept of Elamai, that's misbata, that expresses up in the me'ayim shel mata. Please look it up, and if you want again, I can send it again, whoever needs it. Let's go further. Eitan, that's a very nice beard. Okay. I hope you're not becoming too frum. I'll call your wife.
Thank you. I'm trying not to. My best efforts.
Make sure you stay normal. Okay. Otherwise, I'll have a hard time. Right. Okay. What does it mean? Me'ayim shel mala. That's on the basis of that. That's what the Rebbe asks. What does it mean? Me'ayim shel mala. It's a davar pashtim. It's not just the idea he's emotional, because when we're emotional, our stomach churns. So it's a metaphor for emotion. No, it means there is a me'ayim shel mala. What does it mean? Me'ayim shel mala. B'Yoshia Dort is quite known. The Bereshis HaYishtalshus Haya Bilti Halo Asman. Beginning of reality. Well, let me explain something. There's a concept that we know of Chalukas Hamayim, Mayim El Yoinim and Mayim El Tachtainim. When God made the Rakia. Okay, so what do people think? What is this Mayim El Yoinim and Mayim Tachtainim? It's brought down that the Medrash says that why do you have to put salt on karbanes? Because Nebuch, we took the Mayim Tachtainim and further them away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Because they divide Mayim El Yoinim are closer to God, and Mayim Tachtainim are further from God. So mainly we took Mayim Tachtainim, we took the salt out of that water. Obviously, we're talking about the sea water, and we said that will be Al Gabi HaMizbeach. That's a Medrash Rabbah. Rashi brings it up. What does it mean? That closer to God, further from God? I mean, come on, give me a break. In infinity, there's no closer, there's no further. What does it mean? Waters above the stratosphere. Which waters are we talking about? The Maisa, okay, I'm not going into again how Chazal knew or understood their planets. I'm not going there at the moment. I'm not interested, and this is a conversation we already had. I'm not going there. I just know one thing. This is explained the Maisa in Zayar Kodesh, and afterwards also in Ari and etc. Also comments of Chassidus all over. That this talks about Mayim El Yainim and Mayim Tachtainim. Talks about Mayim is an idea of energy of growth. That's what water is. Water has no shape, has no form, has no taste. It is the way God gives you the gift of life, of growth. It was man does to it, but he's the one that gives it shape, color, etc. Okay, is it frozen? Is it a popsicle? Is it what is it? I'll take it, coffee, whatever it's called. These are different things. Is it an ice cube? I don't know what it is. Is it this color, that color? The children care about. Lamais, it's water. Water has no shape, has no color. Water is simply the simplest thing in Gashmis, which is a metaphor of God giving himself to us. Giving us the possibility of growth and progress. That's Mayim El Yoinim, something coming directly from God. Mayim Tachtainim is the idea that we basically do our hishtadlus, and with that we generate a rutzon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring, to give. It's what you call it Mayim Duchrim, the waters of the male, and Mayim Nukrim, the waters of the female. It means that which is Ratzon Pashut of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, not because we did something. And then Mayim Tachtainim, which is Ma'ira Mayim El Yoinim, that's V'hoyayim Shemaya Tishma Mitzvaysai V'nasati Gishmeichem B'yitam. And then you'll have rain. That's called Mayim Tachtainim, which are Ma'ira the Mayim El Yoinim. So when you see what the idea behind this is that basically, look carefully at the language here. It is quite known, the Bereshis HaYishtalshus, the beginning of Ishtalshus, the beginning before the chain reaction of the total process of the Bria. There was nothing outside of God, so there was nothing outside of God to activate God. Hayabilti ha'alat mayim nukfim, it was without elevating the waters, the koyach hatzmicha of human beings' actions of Ishtadlus. You did not generate growth. You did not generate anything. There was no mayim nukfim, no female, so to speak, recipient cause for the great givers equals God, the Zachar, to give his seed, so to speak. Okay, Elami Atzma, it was totally from himself. We talked multiple times about the idea behind that. This God of infinity, within his wisdom, as Rambam describes, is not something which he internalized from outside of him, but is nothing more than an expression of the infinite self. We discussed this at length in one of the previous classes, based on two Rambams, Shiur Perek Yud and Yisod Yatar. The God's infinity is expressed in his wisdom, as opposed to your wisdom and my wisdom is nothing more than an accumulation of human experiences which we translated through mental images and collected them, and now we have a great search engine in our mind. We put them together, we're wise. So we're like bees which processed external information. And this is what we have, which is called our wisdom. Our wisdom is not me, I'm the bee, which is processing it. And ultimately there's honey. Just as the honey is kosher, all those being processed by a treifa animal, it's a sheretz, it doesn't matter if it's not him, it's only a processing machine. Your chachma is not you. You're the processing of the chachma is you, but the chachma itself is nothing more than external phenomena that you process. Remember that. Very important. Ashmael came by the Kadosh Baruch Hu, him, and his chachma are one. This is what the Rambam writes. Because the chachma does not come from something that he processed from outside of him. He's infinite. There was no dualism. Ultimately, it means to say that the chachma is an expression of the essential God, which is quite frightening, but this is the truth. This is chachmas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so this chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, also the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where does it come from? What drives you to want something? You normally want something because you're lacking something. Why are you lacking something? Either because you're physically lacking or because emotionally you feel you should have something and you lack it. It's because you're lacking something and there's a void that forces you or pushes you psychologically to do multiple things. The fact that you at the moment are standing and holding yourself like Rodin's thinker, and another one's sitting this way, another one's standing that way. Here, Johnny's going like this, you know what I mean? And things like that. You look like, you know, like and Benji is stoic. Okay, so you understand what is this all over here? But these are all psychological necessities to stand and sit in a certain form, and we're full of quirks. Now, God is not quirky. God is perfect. If God is perfect, he does nothing. Why would he do anything? The word doing makes no sense. Any action or feeling is there to fill a psychological or physical void. There is no psychological, there is no physical. He is totally one within himself in perfection. How in God's earth would he do anything? Creation itself is by definition illogical. The fact that it says bara Elokim, why? Why? What is the void which is missing? This is a question which has to be asked, and it's obvious. There is no answer. That ratzon is not seichel. That is the ratzon which created seichel. It was a ratzon of the infinite to create, to be mischakem, to have chochma and bina and das and midos, etc. This is what we call keser elyon. Keser elyon means above the seichel, you have something which is above that. And that's called the ratzon shel atik, the ratzon shel lifnei hachachma. The will which expressed itself in the whole dynamics of creation, even creating an interactive persona within God, first needed a will. That will is an expression of the essential self of God. Just as chachma is an expression of itself, so the chachma should be the keser, which is moiled that chachma, that ratzon, which is moiled the chachma. What's its marshal in our life? Well, you can't be mischakim until you have the will of cognizance. The will of cognizance is the mother and father of your chachma. It makes you look around, see reality, sponge it, think about it, and create mental images. As opposed to the cat, that somehow curiosity kills it. For us, curiosity is the will of cognizance, is the mother and father of our wisdom. Okay? That's a ratzon. That ratzon comes because we are choser. The nivra is chaser be'etzem, as the pasuk says in Mishlei, hanefesh lo temale. Hanefesh lo temale. The neshama is basically is looking around to find justification of existence. Doesn't know why it's here, so maybe what it does, you're fidgeting. All Jews fidget a lot because they're not. Why am I here? You look at the world like a kid, in a Caribbean island. What is this? Why am I here? What is this supposed to mean? Like, why did I come here? What is it doing here? Etc., etc., etc. Did you ever have something like fall on you? Well, this is what happens to all the neshamas. And that's why you have the taiva of cognizance, and that's why people are curious. People which are not curious, they're not curious. They're not curious about X, but they're definitely curious about Y. They're curious about their health. They're curious about multiple things. Or they're really not mentally balanced, okay? So to put it mildly, the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is self-generated, equals its expression of infinity itself. Just as Chachma is an expression of the Atzmius of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Keser, which is the Ratzon HaKodim LeChachma, is an expression of the Atzmius of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, you can't ask the question, what generated it? Infinity generated itself. Why? There is no why. The word why by definition means what is the logical reason? My dear friends, logic is nothing more than a proportionate relationship between cause and effect. That is only once we have two poles, one called cause and one called effect, then you can ask what is the proportionate relationship between two of them. But there were no two poles. It was just infinity itself. So there is no question of logic. God had to create dualism and then to create it in a logical form. But prior to dualism, the word of logic ceases to exist. It doesn't happen. Your question should be, why did God create logic? To say, ask that as a logical question, looking for a logical reason of why God created logic is an oxymoron. It's a stira minei ubei. You can't ask what's the logical reason for the creation of logic. So Mamela, it's a bias of Bekutcha that when we talk about the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not because something generated. Nisavuloi. Chazal called Nisavuloi LaKadosh Baruch Hu Lias Loidiru V'Tachtonim. It's a medrash from Chum Pasha Shmini. God had a taiva. What does it mean to have a taiva? Taiva means a Ratzon which is not mugdar and mugbal with tam and das. So by human beings, which the peak of their humanity is their logic or their wisdom, therefore doing something without tam and das is degrading. But by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we talk about something mi'al tam and das, it doesn't mean it's below tam and das, it's mi'al tam and das. It's not in the tzimtzum of just chachma and bina and das, it lies in infinity. We call that taiva, a ratzon which precedes tam and das. That is the pshat of Nisavula HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They once asked about Latanya, why did God create the world? So he said, Ich verstehe nicht. Medrash says it's a taiva. Of a taiva, fragt man nicht kein kashus. You don't ask questions on a taiva, because taiva by definition is anti-questions, not shaykh, the tam and das. That is the true answer to this whole spiel. So maybe you understand what we're looking at here is Ma'atzmoy. It's not because he wanted. What does he want? What is his ratzon? The answer is ki chafetz chesed hu. Chesed here means, as the Rambam writes in Nevuchim in the period before the last, it doesn't mean because he wants to be good. Everybody quotes this Ramchal of God has a teva and teva toiv lehetiv. One must understanding it the way most people teach is to get a kfira. It's kaitzis benatius. To say that God has a teva, has a nature, which therefore psychologically urges him to do things, is pashut kfira. God is infinite, doesn't have anything which forces him to do anything he's lacking naught. Chafetz chesed hu means that God shows from himself to be an expressive personality. That's what the Rambam says what chesed means. Chesed means nesina or expression, b'li gvul. I in Rambam are in the book one page before the last. That's why incest is also called chesed. You're expressing yourself outside of a normal gvul. It's often a pasuk. And the pasuk olam chesed yibane. So the Gemara, yes. Why does that mean? The world was created through incest. With who do you think Cain married? His sister. And that's the pshat olam chesed yibani. The word was created through incest, through basically expression which is not limited. That's the Chazal understanding. We also understand olam chesed yibani. Because Baruch Hu created this without any halos man, limitless expression of self. It is not because something caused it, therefore the nesina is going to be klape in proportion to the cause. There was no cause. The cause is infinity, therefore the reaction is infinity. There's infinite giving. That's what it means, chesed, in the simple term. Please read more in the book in the parak before the last. So now we understand this. That was all in the beginning. But afterwards, totally ba'alo asman. Once he started this and he created a world and put man there, now everything depends on halo asman. Halo asman nukvim. Now the recipient, which is creation, has to energize that God that he should react and give. He created an interactive persona, reacting to what we do down here, which is called the ishtadlus of man down here, which is mayim, again, the energizing of nukva of the recipient. All this is elaborated in Eitz Chaim or Chaim Vital. Now here I have to explain something and then we'll take it from there. Here now I'm going to take a little detour to explain certain ideas. For that, you have to go flip the page. If you have it, you have a printout or on your phones of Or Chaim Siman Vav. In Or Chaim Siman Vav on the bracha, Roifei Chobasu Mafli Lasot, we know there are different interpretations found in the Shulchan Aruch. Some of them really attest to a ancient biology, which is really not shaykh to anything. Let's look at a few things. Example, what does it mean? So if you go to the Shulchan Aruch, if you have it in front of you on Siman Vav, Mafli Lasot, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lines from the bottom going up, from the bottom of whatever you have there. So it says, Roifei Chayli Kol Basa Al Shem Hanikavim Shebarabai V'Hoitzi Pseilis Ma'Cholai. God created Nikavim, which you might see Pseilis Ma'Cholai. Ki'im Yitapesh Babetin, if there wouldn't be a capability of taking out, removing the toxic waste, you will die, which is obvious. So actually, every person which has toxic waste of food in his body, he's a chayla. And Baruch Hashem, you're capable of extricating it, and therefore this is your refuah. What does mafli lasot mean? Zok the Shulchan Aruch, mipnei she'adam domeh lenod malei ruach. Man is like a wine bag. That's what it was, a skin of air, a skin full of air. If you have a wine bag, you have a bag, it's full of air, it's like a balloon, and you make a minimal, like a needle point hole, haruach yotzei. So that how does man live? Now, the Beis Yosef is not talking here al pia Kabbalah. It doesn't mean that. What does it mean here? This obviously attests to the fact that he's accepting a very ancient understanding, which is found all over Chazal, that they actually thought that every person is full of air. He is breathing his own essential air. Air is self-generated. What exactly the lungs were doing there, I don't know. Maybe they're the exhalers, but the source of the air is yourself. This is based on a medrash that you all know. When it says "Vayipach bi'apay nishmas chayim," it says "Man de nafach mitoch yusay nafach." He who excels from his inner self. The Tanya writes based on Chazal and Zohar Kosh mitoch yusay u'pnimi yusay. That's what you say, that your neshama is an expression of God Himself. Well, the metaphor is really dated because, for goodness sake, air is not part of me at all. I'm nothing more than a processor of X amount of air inhaled through my lungs and finally exhaled. And I bring in the oxygen from outside of me and that goes into my bloodstream. It does whatever it does. My oxygen, my air is not pnimi yusoi, not nothing. It's literally, again, like my chokhmah. It's like a bee. Okay, it's not me. It's not. If I would say my neshama is like air of air, that means to say I am definitely not part of Atzmis of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. If you think of it, the answer is very simple because the mashal is stated, and at the time Chazal actually thought this, and this is what's expressed here. They actually thought, and Reb Chaim Volozhiner still thinks that way. If you open B'Nefesh Chaim, I guess he didn't go to medical school. Never opened the body. He discusses. He said, "Your air is essentially inside. You're a noid malei ruach." Did you know that? You're an energizer battery of air. Okay, and that's what you're breathing. You exhale it, granted, through your lungs, but you don't inhale it. Well, how they understood inhaling, I'm not sure. I'm not going there because he said it's noid malei ruach. Well, it's noid malei ruach. Man, there's so many holes. Where exactly is it function? Now, this is also very weird. They think all the holes go to the center of man for whatever reason, and they figure the air has to be somewhere there. How come there's so many holes in this airbag and the balloon and the air is still contained? That's what the Ramban, the Beis Yosef understands. Once again, these are dated things, which obviously, if I would have this alone, I'd have a problem of saying this bracha. Obviously, Anshik Tesagdar meant more. It's very clear to me that they meant more, and let's see what the next thing is. The capability of taking the raw materials of food and basically taking in the energies which are needed and sending them to where they have to be sent, dispatched. This is the whole system. And ultimately, therefore, whatever is not edible is expelled. This alone is an unbelievable pellet. It's an unbelievable machinery, which is a pellet gadol. That's maflilah. So the digestive system is really awesome. Okay, that's good. Then there are more brings something which I know in Keren B'Yavne has constantly been messed up. It says as follows: he does something wonderful. What? The fact that he keeps the spirit, here means the spirit, the neshama of man within him, because still remember, hearing from different people in this space matter should mean the fact that he ties up a neshama to a guf is something really unbelievable. Well, this nebuch is a mistake. It's a terrible mistake. The man, whoever said this shot, heard it all over, simply didn't read the Magen Avraham and didn't read the Gra. It's not what that's not what the Ramon means. What does the Ramon mean? You have on the side in Siman Daled the Magen Avraham Ruchani. Ubekavanot, and he describes the kavanos of the Ari Katuv. Dan Shemon net meruchniut hamachal va'guf nena migashmiut hamachal umikoyach ze kshurim ze beze al yedei hamachal. The Gemara writes the same. You don't have it, but I'll read it to you. On the words kosher davar ruchani b'gashmi, Dr. Gemara Rutzono lamar al yedei hamazon. Now, what does this mean? Here is the story. It seems to be saying that food does two things. Food, first of all, energizes the body, allowing it to be a vehicle of life. That is what you call gashmis hamachal. Food is also a reason of why the soul chooses to stay in the body. You can have a beautiful body. I need an incentive for this food. This is unbelievable. For the food, for the soul to want to stay in the body. The food, this is Azayra Kodesh. The food is actually, whatever happens in the eating process, is a reason justifying the soul wanting to stay tied up to the body. And this is Maflila Asot, that through the Ruchnius of Michael, the Neshama is willing to stay in the body, and through Gashmis of Michael, the body becomes a vehicle to accept that soul. This is the emes, this is the gra, and this is the Magen Avraham. And this is the Ari. Harchavas Advarim, flip the page if you may. I want to show a piece. And we'll continue Mitzvah Hashem next time around. It says as follows. In front of you, you have a Soid Yishurim, which is written by Rav Gershon Heinrich Leiner, the Baal HaTchelis, the Radziner Tchelis, the grandson of the Mea Shiloach. which is the first mimer in the Sefer on Erev Yom Kippur. And he discusses at length a certain Zohar, which the Zohar describes 3 different types of machal. Actually, 4. There's regular machal, there's matzah, there's man, and he says the Zohar writes, the shtadlin by Raisa, those who learn Torah, their machal is the chokhmah. V'chokhmah techayeh ba'aleh. In fact, the Zohar HaKadosh, if that's the case, if chokhmah techayeh ba'aleh, why are Talmidei Chachamim you have to eat? And but the Zohar HaKadosh, because their body needs it, but the reason the neshama is tied down to the guf is not because of the machal, because of the chokhmah and the Torah. They don't need the food experience for that part of the machli lasos is not negati shtadlin by Raisa. It's a mefurish Zohar Parshas Kedosh. Here already we have mefurish the 2 aspects of Michael. There's the Michael Aguf and there's the Michael HaNeshama. Now, what does this mean when we talk about the Michael HaNeshama? So I do want to read this a bit. So if I hope you have it in front of you, and I would suggest that you do print it out because it's a beautiful piece to read. Here it starts by Dabar Hashem El Moshe, and God spoke to Moshe Lamor, and this is what he told him to say. Achba Asur LaChodesh Hashvi, but on the 10th of the 7th month, Hazeh of this 7th month that we had already discussed before, which we discussed Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, Yom HaKippurim, who it is a day of Kapora, which means cleansing. Mikra Kodesh Yelachem, it's a Mikra Kodesh, it means to say it's a day of holy convocation. Ramban. We have to get together and pray and make an important day. And you will, well, I'm not using with Inu at the moment, is not an easy term to explain offhand. You will somehow afflict your life. Here means your life. It doesn't mean your soul. Your soul is not afflicted. It means nefesh here means that aspect of the neshama, which is the gift of life, that aspect of the neshama, which is called nefesh. Nefesh means the expression of the neshama, which is the fact that it's machaya, the gvia, and that you're alive. That's what goes away with death, nefesh. Okay, so that nefesh, that expression of life, you have now afflicted. How? By the chamishi inu. So the Rebbe Ksiv, the pasuk says in Tilim Samach Beis, bitchu boi b'chol eitz. Constantly trust God. Nation, shifchu the fun of levavchem, pour out your hearts in front of Him. The Isal Zeb Medrash, the Medrash says in Tilim Hanashama Hazois. This is a Medrash in Tilim Samach Beis. Cause Shoshi Oile V'Yeredis Baguf. All the time she's fidgeting, she's going up and down in the body. Umevakeshes L'Tzeis Adam, she wants to leave. But somehow she experienced HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malach Ha'aretz K'vodah even in the goof. She stops fidgeting and she gets settled. What's stated in this medrash that basically the neshama feels, what am I doing here? You took something which is chelik l'kamimah, which is misaneg b'ziv hashchina, which has notes in tzubim, and yediyas elokim is belig bul. What do you think? Oil and Hashem is. I told my bachim today in Shiur, guys. Oil Mabah by Jews is not the Islamic one. All you're going to do there is learn all day. It's not 24/7. It's for perpetual. So if you want to do something else out of learning, I suggest go to hell. There we'll have soccer games, we'll have a lot of things, and it'll be a bit hot. But at least it'll be different. In heaven, all you do is sit and bask in the glory of wisdom. Now, for most people would say, man, that's boring. What do you mean? There's no timing of chachma. Well, I'm not used to it in this world. Why would I want it in the next world? And then people tell me they do mitzvahs for Olam Haba. I don't believe them. They don't want to learn in this world. Why would they want to? Why spend all the rest of pure perpetual existence doing nothing more than lisanik b'chochma? You can be misanik and a rajba now. So I tell the guys in Shiur, I have these like 5 minutes of morals and ethics. I said, you got to prepare yourself for the great hibernation. The way to do it is start with 10 hours a day, move to 12 hours a day, and get to 18 hours a day before you go to the workforce. Okay, then you'll be, at least you do a little sport. You build up a body to be muchim for a kli for ilm haba. This is the emes. So an neshama comes from there. And all of a sudden, it gets down in what's called Bote Ere Chomer, Lashon Ramba. You're in a clay reality. It's like, goodness sake, it's like Gulliver coming down to the Lilliputs. It's like Livingston living with the pygmies. Like, why? What the oomph am I doing here? And it's a real serious problem. And it wants out. There's a cultural letdown, and the Hashem doesn't want to be here. Let's take the medrash. What keeps it there is because simply he realized that there's kavod shamayim, an understanding of the infinity of God, that he experienced in the guf that he will never experience up there. And that's why Livingston stayed with the pygmies. And that's why, something, people realize certain things about the beauty of life in Auschwitz that they wouldn't have understood in Yerushalayim. There are realities that duress and stress create, and a love that gets to a distance that you understand there's actually humanity in the cesspool. There's actually God there too. And suddenly you realize how God is infinite. The idea of kavod shamayim in the choshech, kaful and mechupul, that you would never dream about if you're sitting in the ivory tower of, you people living, many of you are at the moment in the Gullus. Yeah. When you see people, when you know how hard, you wouldn't know today because now it's not hard to keep Shabbos. When I saw those people that mamish didn't have parnasa because they had to keep Shabbos. And you realize how deep is a Kadosh Baruch Hu kesher with people. These people had numbers on their hands. Okay? And they couldn't care less. They're not going to be Mechal Shabbos. As I once spoke to the person who was Masadik Dushin for my parents, this Usher White, Rav Usher White's father-in-law, was the Rav of Akko, the B'Shol Zalmanovich, was a Geisha Talmud Chacham, big Talmud. And he told me once, if you see a person with a number on his hand and he still believes in God, even if he's not kind of mitzvahs, give him a kvittel. Ask him for a bracha. Because he has a tfisa in kvod shamayim that you people will never have. This is what it says over here. Let's read this inside. Ki hine hishtecha kadosh baruch hu or yekarot gadol ba'arbei levushim v'astarot. God threw into this world enormous ideas and expressions of kavod shamayim, and they're all hidden. They're so hidden that they're in a reality you can actually deny that God is there. Everything is the act of God, yet God gave kavod shamayim, there's kavod shamayim in things which are austere, it would seem to be. This is the reality we live in. We live in a world which on the face of it, it seems to be void of kavod shamayim. We don't notice it. No one lives with kavod shamayim 24/7. And then it says, "V'neshama hu or bahir," but the neshama is a pure, enlightened body of pure chachma, and that's its experience. Kidei Aminan, as we say today too, the neshama is a l'kai neshama shenasat to be tahirahi. It is pure. Haynushi mistacheches michol levushim. She's beyond all different symptom and expressions. She sees Reality is covered Shemayim. This is a place full of Astora. This is like the pygmies. This is not an enlightened world. I'm a PhD. I have 3 PhDs in philosophy, physics, and I don't know what else in humanities. And a bunch of these place live in Bedford Avenue, the corner of Rodney, where they barely speak English. What are you doing with these people? I live in Pico Robertson, verstehst du mir, pink dort nicht halt covered Shemayim, and then I see the billboard and I get nervous. What's covered Shemayim got to do with all the whole place? You go to Florida, Grant, go take a look at South Beach and understand what I mean. Okay? You understand what we're talking about? So what is the Shema going to do here? No, he sees that in South Beach and in the pits there is covered Shemayim. Hainu, Shemakeres, Shebetoicha Guf Gamke, Nitzav covered Shemayim Va'arius Baruch, Ki Be'emes, Betocha Esther, Nimtza Or Yikarot Gadol Bioter. I had Kideita B'Midrash, and here he brings. I will explain this at length, probably more next time around. But he brings an unbelievable medrash, and here's look at this medrash carefully. Mishin ignami menu. Someone stole something from you. You shall take, and it doesn't complain. You're quiet. Mi gadol. Who is the stronger? Who is the bigger? A ganav or an ignav? Is it the thief, or the stolen party, which is okay? What is this mashal that he's bringing? To medrash. You know what it is? If you understand that acquisition is for a purpose, for you to do something with it. That's what it's for. You're supposed to do something with it. And if someone took it away from you, maybe that's not what I'm going to be able to do. Gamarnu. If I can't use it for covered Shemayim, so no, who needs it? If this guy took it away from me, I won't have it. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be. I can't now do anything about it. I don't have covered Shemayim coming out of it. I don't control it. So what I need it for? When he looks, his life is very, very purposeful. It looks okay. What Bible is for? Using it for the right thing. I can't use it now. What can I do? It's so stupid. What am I going to cry about? The fact that I don't own money. Maybe you could have done good things with that money. Yeah, but no, I can't. That's a choice. That's not my tafkid. Because Baruch Hu gives every person what he needs. And if at the end of the day I was supposed to do a certain avodah Hashem and God took it away from me, through about Kira, he's a Gandhi, but Lamais, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have it. So I don't have it, I can't use it, so what do I need it for? Why? Because you could have had more Ilam Haba. I'm not here for Ilam Haba. No one's here for Ilam Haba. You're here for realizing what our potential with the Kalim we have. Someone stole it from me, so I don't have this plea anymore. Again, so my tachlis now is to realize our potential. We'll do whatever I do have. So why would I scream? It's a very profound thought. If you live with the pneumius center, with what it's for, the covered Shemayim is for, you realize he's the greater man. He understands what ownership is for. That's why he doesn't scream. Oh, the thief thinks that ownership is for having. So he'll take even something which doesn't belong to him. No, ownership is for using, for realizing your potential. Don't have it, so nothing to complain about. So he says, unbelievably, he says, the Maisa, one has to understand that even Hester Gadol, so to speak, even when things are stolen and taken away from you, there's covered Shemayim. You know what the covered Shemayim is? That a person realizes it's not a kli for me, I don't care about it. He has defined his life with purpose. He reinvents himself. because he's constantly reinventing himself with purpose and values. The people say, but I lost that money, I could have done mitzvahs. Are you doing mitzvahs because you want to gain pie in the heavenly restaurant? Are you doing mitzvahs because God wants you to use what you have to be my recovered Shema? That guy's a Gandhi, but for you, it's probably an Einish. It means God said, brother dear, you're covered Shemais without this. So what are you crying about? At the most, it's Yisurim, Boimolovi, Fashish, Remaisa, V'yazli, B'tshuva. You're crying about the money. You should be crying about the fact that God took away a kli of avodas Hashem, which obviously meant to say, I don't want this avoided from you. That's maybe we should be crying. That's called Yifashush Remaisa. And this is the covered. He gives an example of covered Shemayim B'Eshtekon. I'm going to stop now. We're going to continue this piece. So please, for yourselves, print it out. We'll continue not this coming week, but the week afterwards. Okay, that means the Sunday of Slichus. Slichus is not this Mitzvah Shabbos. It's not next Mitzvah Shabbos. It's the one after, right? He says Kisava. Right. So this coming Sunday, I will not be here. And the Sunday afterwards, in 2 weeks. Ahavat Slacha. Bye. Great seeing you all. Take care. Smile, Ruben. Bye. Take care. Great seeing you all. Bye. Kultu.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.